Well, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Papa's Workshop. These are for Adam, Brady, Luke, and Brenna. Today we're not in the shop, as you can see. We're in my den. So getting ready to plan the next project and been doing some research about what to do next. I've been throwing different ideas, and so we're going to talk about that, kind of the planning stage and that, and we'll go from there. First, we got to check in with my assistant, who is asleep down here under the table. There's my assistant. She's kind of laying down there underneath the drafting table. Always a big help, aren't you, girl? Yeah, it's always a big help. Yes. Well, let's get to work. Okay, well, here's one project that I'm going to build someday, but not this time. This is a secretary, or sometimes it's called a desk and bookcase. They're made in two pieces. This is the desk part, and then this would be the bookcase part. If we get to the next image here, you can see it opens up. It's quite a magnificent piece, but they are very large. They're 9, sometimes 9.5 feet tall. So, and this was made by the Townsend family. The Townsends and the Goddards this is in Newport, Rhode Island, were well-known or famous furniture makers. They weren't called furniture makers then; they were called joiners. They made magnificent pieces, but what I've decided to make, though, is this right here is called a block front chest of drawers. And the block front is referring to these flat areas here that are in the same plane as the edge of the cabinet. So these are raised out, the center's pushed in, and the other is out. Now you can have the block, when it says blocking, it's not because of those blocks, it's because of those flats. You can have a curve, you can have a block front serpentine chest, or a block front oxbow. Serpentine, they go in, it's a curve, a flowing curve that goes in and comes out in the middle, it goes in. Oxbow's the other way around, it comes out and then goes in. But it has that same blocking, or that flat on the drawer on the outside. The blocking is a purely American style. It started in Boston. This is not a very good picture, but this is a Boston block front chest. You see it's got the blocking, and it goes all the way up to the top, and even the top is got the same shape to it. Back in the 18th century, there were 4 regional centers for furniture design. It was Boston, Newport, Rhode Island, New York, and Philadelphia. And for the first part of the century, Boston was really kind of the style setting area. So that's what this first originated. The blocking cabinet that looks like that first originated in Boston. And all the areas used shells to embellish their work, but it's attributed to the Townsends, or at least Newport, as being the first ones to combine the blocking with these shells up here. And the Townsends say that, I think the original grandfather arrived in like 1707. I think it was Solomon Townsend, and he had 2 sons. And so John Townsend, who made this chest in 1765, what is it? I think it was, Solomon. That was his grandfather, and his John's uncle. So Solomon's one of Solomon's sons. he had sons and daughters, but the uncle's daughters married the Goddards, and the Goddards and the Townsends both were joiners in the family. They had shops. They all worked closely together, and they made a lot of pieces like this. And this is sort of called the Newport style with the shells. And they made all sorts of furniture with that. Here's just a desk with the same shells on there. And here's what they call a bureau, and the same thing. So, and you can look at pieces from the mid 1700s, or the other one was 1765. And John Townsend made pieces the same chest as was it this one? No, this one here in 1792, and they are virtually identical. They did very little change to these shells. They kind of at the base here they went to a little crosshatch pattern, and some of them even have a little scroll on the outside right here. But other than that, they are identical. They didn't change. And when they scaled it, these are different size pieces and different size shells. Even if you go back to the secretary, they're all different size, and even on the inside they've got little shells here. So that was an important part of their design, was that shell. And you can see the intricacy. This is on a bureau, and this is done later. So this is a later one. It's got that little scroll and the little bead around the edge of the concave shell. And you see that it's very intricate and very, very elegant the way that's done. That is the focal point of the piece. So to do one of those large secretaries, I felt like I needed to be better at being able to do something like this. So this is the first time I've done this kind of shell carving, and the first time with the block front. I've done a block front oxbow chest, but this will be the first one with this in and out grouping. So it's going to be a challenge. One of the things that in studying this is that they didn't always know, or didn't always do everything the best way that it could be done. Here's a picture of the back. The Metropolitan Museum in New York has that piece that was made by John Townsend in 765, and there's a lot of pictures, both all underneath and all that, so it's got a lot of information. But you see here, the cabinet side goes all the way to the bottom, and this molding on the outside is just applied on there. Now, we say, well, why does that matter? Well, the legs are mostly resting on this molding, not on the cabinet. I think we got a picture of the bottom, and see, they've got, the other thing is they got this right here is a glue block. This block, and you see that the feet actually, it rests on the glue blocks, not the legs. And the fact that they're on that molding, and the molding is attached to that case just with some nails, because the case is going to be, with changes in humidity, the case is going to get wider and narrower because of the way the board is going, and that molding is not going to change much in that direction. So it was bound to come apart, and that is the problem you find with the Townsend chests like this. Is you can see here, this leg's been repaired. It's got 2-3 screws in it because the whole thing has come off. And in this picture, you can see this one's been repaired here, and the molding is kind of broke off, because the whole weight of the chest is on those glue blocks inside. And that brings up another thing with the glue blocks. You've got the grain of the wood of the foot going this way, but that glue block, it's going this way, so it's bound to come apart too. So we got to redesign that part of it, because that is not the best way to do it. The Boston chests, they used this piece here and made a frame that was underneath the whole chest, and the chest sat on that. So we'll do something like that probably. It won't be completely accurate, but you can see here's another indication. You got this little dovetail. This is how the blades are attached to the dividers between the drawers. And I don't know if you can see it, but you got the same thing here. So that means that case has got to go, it's going all the way down in the front also. So all of this is all applied too. So that is a real problem, I think. Let's see what else we got here. There's a picture of the side. This is the other thing that they did. This is the drawer bottom, see it? And then they just tacked on this strip underneath of it. So the drawer bottom was just nailed to the sides, and then this strip underneath. And so I probably won't do that either. So what we got here? Yeah, and here's a picture of the more detail on the shells. It's very elegant, but it's going to be, this has to be done correctly, or the chest isn't going to look right. And I've read in some things where they said, well, they used even number of lobes on the convex ones and an odd number on the, but after studying the shells and seeing how they made it, it's fascinating to me that they can make these, they can scale these up and down for different pieces and have the same exact relationship. So I spent some time trying to figure out how they would lay this out and be able to scale it. And in that, you kind of noticed that the shells are identical. You see, this is a high, they go high and low, right? If we look at this one that's coming towards us, the convex one, this is a high lobe of the shell, and then there's a low, and it just goes all the way. So right in the middle, it's a low. But since it's coming up at us, the highs are the ones that are the high points on the curve. But this one here, since it's going away from us, it's the concave one, but we still have the high part of the shell is on this, and then it's low, and in the center, the low is the center. So they are identical. They have the same number of highs and lows. It's just that because the lows have to be further back to start, that makes the lows the high points. So it makes it look like, since this high point right, or this, on the arc, it's the high point, but over here it's low, but it's actually the same exact layout. It's just the way, the direction it goes in. And so in playing with that, I found that if I divide the radius from here to there, if I divide that by 5, this lowest point right here, or the highest point on these, is 1/5 in, and there's key points in 2/5 in. It's right at the top of this arc and comes down. And on those, if you make an arc for each fifth, the points that the shell goes across are even. You can divide it evenly and end up with points on the shell, and then you can draw the curve. And the same with the highs and the lows here on the edge. If you take that 1/5 from here to there, it's 1/5 of the radius. If you take and divide that by 5, you'll end up with 1/5 goes to this innermost, or 2/5 goes in to the innermost, and 1/5 goes to where the high point and the low point meet, or where these little notches are. So it all kind of works right out. And the same with the center section. It's a what they call a golden spiral, and the two meet with an arc at the top that's the 2/5 of the radius. So just by knowing this distance, the width of the shell, you can calculate all the rest of this right out and be able to draw it. So I find that very fascinating. So we got that much done. So I've made some just quick plans right here. I got that just to give me the overall dimensions. It's not real detailed. It's just giving me the basics of what I'm going to do. I had to work off of these pictures to come up with the let's see if we got one here. So I work off the pictures to measure the drawers and the sizes of the legs and all that. If we can scale it out. So I pretty much got it. From the museum we got dimensions, not only the overall dimensions, but actually the dimensions of the case. So from edge to edge of the case, the width of the case, and the depth of the case. So that helps me to scale it all out and come up with the right things. And the heart of this, and here's a better picture of how I was able to divide that all up and reproduce the shell. So I made the overall drawing half scale. So these are the some of the details I made of the moldings, and they're 1-to-1, and then the bracket feet. So I knew what to do, and the real heart of this is how we do the blocking in front. You see here, this is where I'm going to use it. This is a frame, and then the drawer divider on the bottom of the case, basically, and then the drawer front goes up there. But how this is all ends up being is that's what's real critical. And if you change the width, this is the molding, this molding here. If you change that changes a lot of these other dimensions. So I have to make sure I can build that the way I've got it there before I make the templates for the drawer fronts. Everything has to kind of be based off of one thing and then work your way up or down from there. So that's going to be a challenge, get that all lined up, because all the bottom 3 drawers, they've all got to be lined up, and then of course the top drawer with the shelves, the edges of the shelves have to line up with that same blocking. So things we're going to do a little different is the glue blocks. On the legs, they had the glue blocks like this behind the bracket legs, so the legs would be going out, from the top up here, and this would be on the inside. But because the grain is going this way and the legs are going this way, it's going to come apart, because this isn't going to change much in this direction, but in this direction, because the legs are going this way, that's gonna change with the humidity. So the better way of doing it is to have little blocks glued up like this, make a stack. So now that'll change this way with the leg, and then you alternate the grain. So this one goes this way, but this one goes this way, and you just alternate it. So this would be end grain and wouldn't glue much to the bracket foot, but you've got these places that would, and the same opposite over here. That's a much better way of doing those glue blocks. And then we're going to do that frame. We won't exactly copy the Boston style, but we'll make a frame like this. And we'll miter the front, and then this would have the molding on the front and the sides as part of that one board. And back here we'll just do a mortise and tenon, and then we'll have the case come down on top of it, and we'll attach it firmly at the front, but then we'll let it move at the back. We'll put slots with a screw or something, because again, the grain's going this way on the frame and the molding, but the case that's going this way. So the case is going to get wider and narrower. Since it's one big 18-inch wide board, it's going to change as much as 1/4 inch from really humid to really dry. So we got to let it move, or it's going to crack. Something has to give if you don't do it. So those are sort of the design change. And we talked about the feet, the bracket feet. It's made out of 2 blocks that are, so looking down at it, it's like that. And we'll use in that attachment there, we use the hidden dovetails to hold those two together. And then that glue block would be in here behind that. This is looking down at the leg. So those are kind of the design considerations that we have to go through. And so this will be good practice for the secretary. We'll see how well this works. And I think that's about it. Can't think of it. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting history with the Townsends and the Goddards family and their history of furniture making in Newport. So I find it interesting anyway. Anyway, till next time. Now I got to see if I got enough lumber to do this, and we'll go from there.